So today I'm going to be talking about Felix Mendelssohn's Piano Trio in D minor. So this is actually by far one of my favorite pieces that we've studied in Mita so far. So I figured it would be the right song to talk about. So first I'm going to go into a little bit about Mendelssohn himself and then into the piece. Felix Mendelssohn was a German Jewish composer, pianist, and conductor in the early Romantic period. And even though he was a musician and composer in the Romantic period, his music was a lot more Baroque-esque and conservative than the music of his contemporaries like Berlioz. He just stuck to a much more, slightly more traditional, structured form and shape to his pieces than some other people did. That is probably due to the fact that he was super influenced by Mozart and Bach when he was growing up. But it's not to say that his music lacks emotion and lacks the characteristics of Romantic period music, because it's just not true at all. He's actually written some of the most beautiful, I think, some of the most beautiful music. And he's like known for his sweeping melodies, and he focuses a lot on emotional and lyrical intent more than a rigid structure, and that's what really does still make him a romantic composer. It's just that he explores the emotion in a much more stable and consistent way than some of his contemporaries. And like that is especially evident in the second movement of his piano trio. This masterpiece was written in 1839 and is the more famous of his two piano trios. The movement in particular is considered, quote, one of the most exalting and moving 6 minutes in all of Western music. Quote from Mita. In fact, Robert Schumann actually called it a masterwork of present time. Its first performance was in 1840 in Leipzig, where Mendelssohn wrote some of his most famous works, conducted the Gewandhaus Orchestra, and eventually founded the Leipzig Conservatory of Music. In this free ternary form piece, Mendelssohn captures the perfect balance between rise and fall, with just enough emotional pull to draw on the listener while still maintaining a sense of balance and tranquility. The tranquility of this movement is expected, given the andante con moto tranquillo marking, but Mendelssohn so effortlessly captures this with the balance between the piano, violin, and cello that it just makes you appreciate how beautiful the piece really is. One of the most notable aspects of this movement, besides its sense of balance, is this naturally singable melody. Da, 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 the violin and the cello are perfectly lyrical instruments for such a melodic piece, but honestly, it's Mendelssohn's gentle use of an instrument as percussive as the piano that helps bring out the intimacy as well as like the virtuosic aspects in this movement. It's actually so singable that this movement in particular is actually frequently compared to some of Mendelssohn's Songs Without Words, which is a collection of songs compiled over much of his career that is all songs for solo piano with like delicate melodies that could have been written as leader for the voice. So it's the delicate opening that the piano has with the melody in the right hand balanced by the accompaniment in the left hand that really makes this comparison valid. After the statement of the melody in the first 8 bars by the piano, the violin and cello then come in to restate the main melody, with more counterpoint provided by the cello. The rhythmic regularity with the 16th notes is what gives this piece its Baroque feel, its like calm steadiness. But that all changes when you get to the B section, where a feeling of unrest and mourning intensifies with the modulation to the parallel minor of B flat minor, as well as with the additions of the triplets in the 8th note triplets in the piano. As the B section continues, there is a brief moment in D flat major, but then this juxtaposition between 8th note triplets and straight 8th notes becomes more apparent as it sinks back into the minor mode. It intensifies more and more and more as the B section goes on. And then it's the return of the straight sixth, like sweeping 16th notes that gives the regularity for the transition to come back into the A section. Instead of copying and pasting the opening section, the restatement of the A section features the cello playing pizzicato and the violin playing the melody an octave higher, as well as the piano having a new counterpoint made up entirely of 16th notes. My favorite part of the whole movement is actually in the coda with the two echoes. It's that little moment there with the echoes where you're not really expecting it to be played for the second time up a third, but then it comes in up a third and just melts my heart. Yeah, it's so freaking good. It's actually like the emotional climax of the piece because it allows for the rest of the coda to be the descent from this high point. So one of the things that is a little bit less obvious about why this piece is so amazing is Mendelssohn's subtle but super effective use of chromaticism. It's what gives all those extra sweet or extra sad or extra lamenting moments the little bit of oomph that makes it such a defining moment. Coming back again to the echoes in the coda, because the cello has this beautiful sighing motion that descends chromatically at the end of each phrase, but it's like those little details that are kind of shoved between soaring melodic lines that really like makes this piece absolutely breathtaking. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed it. Hope you learned something new. Bye!